Hi, you entrepreneurs. Today we have a good one. We have Michael Carini of Carini Arts, CEO of Carini Arts. In 2009, he was assaulted. He had multiple facial fractures. He tells us a really gripping story of what brought him from the past, from that darkness to now, where he brings out these beautiful pieces of art on a consistent basis. Take a listen. Please subscribe. Tell your friends.
Welcome to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with real estate agent Vinny SD.
All right, we're here with Michael Carini, CEO of Carini Arts. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Well, tell us a little about your history. You have a pretty unique one. You've always been an artist, but when did you become, I guess, the CEO of your company? When did you become the artist that we know right now?
That was sort of an ongoing process that really is still a very much work in progress. Several years ago, I decided it was finally time to make the jump and get my business license, and that was by necessity of certain things that I wanted to do with the business. Certain shows I wanted to go to required me to do so, because being an artist, it's one of those interesting things that when you look at it on books or in terms of taxes and stuff, you can write it off in many regards as a hobby. And so you really do have to make that conscious decision of when you switch from somebody that's a hobbyist and perhaps still making money to officially being a full-fledged business.
Yeah. How has that change been? Because you have to find ways to try to quantify what each piece of art is worth. Like, I know everyone's probably priceless to you. Like, how has that been? How's that transition been for you?
It's very much like that. And in fact, it's something that's a bit of a conundrum when I deal with CPAs and bookkeepers and even people that do appraisals and insurance. They tell me that you can technically have something appraised as such, but even if you've sold stuff for that much in the past, you still may have difficulty in terms of proving it, because art is very much what people are willing to pay for it. So just because something was worth X amount before and people were paying that, it's something that is really difficult and falls into a lot of gray areas. So there are a lot of areas that you have to take into consideration, but you don't want to overthink at the same time, because you could just walk into a labyrinth and never come out of it.
Well, so like, I'm very intrigued by the idea of trying to find a way to price it, because I know when I talk to people about their property and I look at it and it's their baby, they're precious kind of thing, and each art is in essence like that. And so you're having an expert tell you what they feel the value is. So each time they're dissecting your portfolio, that person's saying, this is what it is. And then even though there might be some comparables of other arts that you sold, they're still unique, right? And so how has that happened? When was the last time that actually someone quantified it for you? Has that been a while, or?
Really, the artist is the one that sets the value. And
Okay.
I talk about this a lot because it's one of the most common questions that I get from younger artists and peers is, how do you price your art? Because getting started, that's what everybody wants to know. How do I price it so that I can sell it? Yeah. And ultimately, you have to price it at a level that you feel comfortable, that you feel like you are satisfied, that you're going to feel good about yourself if you sell it. You don't want to price it too high that it never moves, unless it's something that's just of significant personal value that you're okay with never moving. And then you have to evaluate supply and demand, and how much do you really need to get rid of the work versus how much are you trying to turn over inventory? Are you trying to hold on and really build a collection of work that you're going to have for maybe a few years, and maybe it will increase in value and then you can move it then? Or are you trying to really unload as much work as possible now? Because sort of the Walmart philosophy, you could price things really low and move them fast, or you can hold on to things and price them a little bit higher. And I've actually found that there have been times when I've had pieces priced at lower price points and they wouldn't move for years. And then there were times where I said, you know what, this piece is worth a lot more. I really need to increase the price. And I increased the price several times what that cost was. And when I upped the price, that is when it sold. And it's such a funny thing, because people could have got it for much less. So there's that perception of value. But the way that I look at it is, I don't think that an artist, regardless of what they're charging, is ever ripping somebody off. They're giving you a piece of their soul. And what's the price of a person's soul worth? It's priceless. And so,
like you said, it's supply and demand. If someone's willing to pay that price, and someone's willing to sell at that price, that's really what the price is. And it's it's definitely an intriguing thing. That's how you say that too, where it's like you offer something at one price, but then you multiplied it by 3, 4, whatever that number was, and now it actually sells. Has there ever been a piece that maybe when you were first getting going that you sold it, and then after you sold it, you realized I might have sold that for a lot less than I should have sold it?
There were some times where I definitely realized that there was the potential to make more money, or maybe I could have held on to it and made more later. But there's always going to be what ifs in life. And so I never really looked back, because I've always felt like everybody that has acquired and purchased and supported my work, I felt very comfortable like those pieces were going to a good home. And I look at my work as pieces of me. They are pieces of me. Yeah. It's part of a larger puzzle. And so I'm giving pieces of myself to other people, and that is sort of spreading this puzzle around. And if they're going to the right home, I would rather sell something for much less and have it go to somebody that's really going to appreciate it and value it than to sell it for much more and have it be thrown in a closet.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen his work, Google it, take a look at the link right here that we're going to have on iTunes and Facebook and all the other platforms where this will be located. But yeah, each piece has its own uniqueness to it. How did you come up with that style? Has it always been... I can't even quantify. I'm horrible when it comes to art, but have you always had that style, or have you kind of grown in your style with your art?
I've absolutely grown in the style, and I have a variety of bodies of work. Some people look at my work and think that I just do abstract work. That's all I'm capable of doing. That's not true. I've done hyper-representational work. I've been an artist since I was a young kid, so it was very important for me to develop formal skills and values and study all the principles and different areas of art history, the arts of cultures all over the world. And I then funnel those into the work that I create now. There have been multiple bodies of work that are almost contrasting, but I feel very unique to me, and I feel like I do succeed in that I make work that looks different from any work that has ever been made in the history of art. And I feel that that is a wonderful thing, but from a sales point of view, it can also be a tremendously difficult thing, because of the fact that I feel that the work that I make is tremendously unique, but I feel like sometimes it doesn't fit into the conversation because it's a bit different. And I think that being different is the best thing. I feel that the artists that are truly remembered in history are the artists that do something truly unique, but you don't necessarily fit into the contemporary conversation of marketability. And so you can either fit in, and sometimes fitting in is what leads you to be financially successful, or you can stand out, have some success, but some of that success may follow after your time. And I feel that that might be one of the places that I fall.
And you've told me, I think there was some well-to-do individual that saw one of your paintings, or a couple of well-to-do individuals saw your paintings that kind of just fell in love with it, right? And they started telling their followers and so on and so forth, and it kind of grew your base, correct?
Absolutely. One of my biggest supporters is John Lloyd Young, the Tony Award-winning performer from Jersey Boys.
Okay.
And his support of my work led to several years of opportunity for me, basically, because of his following supporting me in my work, and I'm forever grateful for that. And the fact that somebody that I hold in such high esteem and respect so much, to feel that my work has that level of value, was something that also carried me over on an emotional level when I went through very difficult times. And that's happened a few times in life where I didn't necessarily see my value, but seeing that other people that I really looked up to respected me and conveyed that gave me the fortitude to carry on and continue and to make the difficult decisions to keep going. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that I really try to do with my work for young kids, is really helping them to believe in themselves, because I know what it's like to sometimes feel like there's no hope or giving up, or that it's not worth the hassle or the struggle of grinding every single day, because sometimes that's what you just have to do for the things that you really love.
What happened there when you're in your deep spot? How did that connection come around when he saw your piece of art? Like, did you go towards him? Did he see it online, or how did that synergy happen?
I was coming off of a period, this was around 2012, 2013. I was close to being homeless. This was a very low for me. I had an artist residency with Alexander Salazar Fine Art downtown, and made a bunch of work during this residency period of 60 days, where I was working 12 to 15 hours a day, making work for an exhibition, and the public would come by and interact with me. And then I was posting the work, and I think that he and I had a show where we both had a piece in it that was curated by Alex, the gallerist. and he tried reaching out to me. And I guess I didn't respond because I never received the message, or he had tried contacting me through Alex. And he followed up. So not only did I have this celebrity that reached out to me, he took the time to follow up.
Wow.
And I really was like, wow, to think of that when I thought so little of myself at the time and was trying to come out and really just get my feet under me, and to have that level of support. And then for him to share it with his audience and to be able to share those stories for others. You never know who your work is going to reach or the impact it's going to have. We have this perception of who it's going to reach, but that's not always the limitation of it.
So how close were you to being homeless? Like, how long did you have? Like, what was your run rate of? Did you have a month, 2 months, 3 months? Like, how close were you actually to that line? Do you remember?
Less than a month.
Wow.
No income, no resources, no support system, no help. I've always kind of been on my own. I've never had any type of outside support in a financial aspect. Live on my own, have multiple animals, and it's always been upon me to handle my business, and I don't regret that at all. I'm very thankful of that because it's taught me to be strong and to always learn to find a way, because I feel like if perhaps I had the crutch, that maybe I wouldn't be as strong as I am today, but I've always had to do everything on my own and find a way out of those dark spots. But that was one that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get out of, and it really kind of came down to the wire.
Wow, that's wow. What I know you had some other very difficult times, very hard spots. Did your art help you through those, or what happened in those spots right there?
Absolutely. That's sort of the story of my life and my art, and I always say that my art is my life and my life is my art, because the two can't be separated. In 2009, April 27th, I had an assault and battery that put me in the hospital with a severe concussion, multiple facial fractures, and eye trauma. And what I saw flashing in my head is what became the logo that is tattooed on my body, that's on my car, that's on all of my marketing materials. And it looks like a tree or a synapse. And what it was synapses firing in my head. And it represents life growing from death for me. Wow. And even after that situation, the other party, quite a while down the line, ended up reaching out to me and wanting to apologize. And I actually met with him again and told him that I had already forgiven him. I had no ill will towards him whatsoever, even gave him a painting to give to his daughter, because that incident, as traumatic as it was the catalyst for an entire body of work. Yeah. So sometimes you need to get knocked in the head a little bit to open up that creativity. Yeah. And it teaches you, when you get pushed to your limit, how strong you can really be. And some of us never really know until we're pushed to that edge.
Have you, and I'm assuming you have you looked at your art before that time compared to now to see the difference, or how the pieces of you have changed over that time, I guess?
Absolutely. My art's very much a timeline. I can look at it and kind of see where I was at a point in my life. And that's why whenever people ask me, which is your favorite piece, which is the most significant, there's certainly pieces that I like, or I like the story that it tells, but they all tell a story and they all represent where I was at a certain time. And that's the big thing about me. I don't make work for it to be commercial. If there's a commercial aspect to it and people want to buy it, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the reason that I choose to hold a full-time job is so that I can make the work that I want to make and tell the stories that I want to tell, and that are important to me. And every one of those stories, even if it's not a pretty story, is a critical component of my story. And that's why I give the advice to other artists. Don't worry about making good art. Just make your work. Tell honest stories of wherever you are in your life. And even if it's not pretty, just have it be honest.
Yeah.
And if it's honest, it has value, and you'll appreciate that, and you'll remember that, and you'll learn to work through those difficult times by just making the work when you don't necessarily want to make the work.
Yeah. Wow, that's tough right there. If you could look at your younger self, because you have always been an artist, and I guess now you find a way to actually sell it and make a living off it. Did you always know you're going to be an artist? If you could look at your past selves honestly and say, I always knew I was going to be in this place right now? Or
I knew it's who I was. I think for a long time I still did it, but I fought the idea of it being somebody that I was as an adult, because I was told it wasn't possible. I was told what I needed to be. Yeah. I was always told that I wasn't smart enough or wasn't going to be successful, that I didn't have the potential to do the things that I wanted to do. And I don't really feel that I had anybody that ever knew that I would be where I am. And I'll be honest, I didn't always believe in myself, and I didn't think that I would be here. Somewhere along the line of things, I pushed through and started to see what I could become. And so I have much more belief in myself now because that was just the circumstances I was under. I didn't necessarily have the happiest place to be growing up or the best circumstances that were going to lead to me having a tremendous amount of resources, but they presented me with the struggle that was necessary to become what I feel is the best person I could be. There's certainly things that I would potentially do different, but not a lot. Really, the only thing would be to try to believe in myself a little bit more and to take chances. But I also see the value of not believing in myself and the struggle to learning to believe in myself.
Do you think, and I don't know if you can answer, I don't even know if there is someone that has, do you think someone that hasn't struggled can be a good artist? Like if they haven't had struggle in their life, like maybe they're giving something to them their whole life, because you've come from struggle, you've come from a tough place, and you've been shaped into the person you are today. Do you think someone that hasn't had those experiences could be a good artist?
They could be a great artist. They could make very beautiful images. They could have a tremendous energy, something very positive to them that comes from the very real place of who they are.
Yeah.
I don't think that it could have this intangible quality that the work of somebody that has struggled would have in their work. And it doesn't make it better or worse. It's just the beauty of a different journey.
Okay, that makes sense. So what's next for Carini Arts? Like, what do you have in the future? What are your big plans?
Even recently, I came under another one of those periods of struggle where I really had to reevaluate because unlike a lot of other businesses, there's sometimes great periods of inconsistency, and you can feel that you know how the market works or what works for you, and things can sort of turn on a dime in the industry that I'm in. Big paintings don't sell. That can completely change your circumstances. So I've had to really reevaluate the way I do business, and the art industry has tremendously changed with the way that social media works. Cost of brick and mortar galleries to stay open is tremendously difficult. There's not as many of those opportunities these days, and people are hyper saturated with imagery and very much about immediate gratification. So even posting things on Instagram, it's really hard to get people's attention. So I've had to really buckle down, evaluate what I was doing, what I think could work, or at least what the next steps are. So I think that I do have goals for the next 10 years, but the truth is that the journey changes daily. So it's more about taking baby steps that are moving you forward and having sort of a picture on the horizon that's a little bit hazy so that perhaps it changes a little bit as you get closer. And what I've been doing a lot lately is focusing on cultivating licensing deals and partnerships and opportunities where I can increase my visibility on a dramatic level, developing an e-commerce site where I have new affordable options, because the other thing I realized within the past couple of years that I was doing was I was completely alienating who my real audience is. Because my work is about coming from struggle, my work appeals to people that are struggling. And so sometimes those people that are struggling, sometimes it's financially, sometimes it's young students, and they cannot afford to buy a painting for many thousands of dollars sometimes. However, I now have new apparel and shirts with my quotes and things on them from my art journal that I created when I started struggling at one time. And I have prints available as low as 20 some odd dollars. So these are things that even a student that, only has a few dollars, I can make the work accessible to them now, and anybody that wants something but still can't even afford that, they can still message me, and I'll find a way to get them something.
How would they get in contact with you?
Through my website, info@michaelcarini.com. All my social media platforms, there's a way to contact me directly. Even if you go to cariniarts.com, I added a new messenger link yesterday, so you can chat directly with me from that messenger link. I try to make myself very accessible and respond to people, because I do believe that the way to be successful, and the reason that I'm successful, is because I build emotional relationships with people. I connect with people. So people want to have that personal experience, and people want to see their investment, what they're paying for, and who it's going to. And because I'm not a big company, the money that you spend on my work, even if it's $20, that puts food on my table. That puts paint on my palate. Everything that you do is making my life possible. You're making it possible for me to create a new painting to reach more people and to change more lives around the world.
Wow. Powerful. If you give one piece of advice to any entrepreneur out there, and I know you've given a lot of feedback, a lot of advice, but if you give one piece of advice, what would you give it to, like someone that's basically artist or any kind of entrepreneur that's trying to run their own business?
The advice that I would give is the advice that I give when I lecture about the business of art. And I always tell the students this, regardless of whether you walk out of here and you want to be an artist or not, what I'm going to tell you and share with you here today is going to be something that you can apply to everything in life. And that's that if you are willing to outwork and outlast and put in the time, you can and will be successful. Yeah. And I think of that in terms of resolutions. And it's why I go to the gym so often and why I do all these other things and why I'm so extreme with everything that I do. I put 100% into everything. But in regards to resolutions, usually January 1st, you go to the gym. It's packed. Nobody wants to go because it's packed. And this year, I noticed it wasn't packed. In fact, it was less busy. And the reason is because we live in a time where people don't even make the effort anymore to start. And so the gym was not only empty because of that, but all the people that normally go thought, oh, it's going to be busy, so I'm going to stop going. So it's less busy. So just apply yourself, put in the effort, and more than ever, you have the opportunity and the resources to be successful now, because it's really sad that a lot of people just won't put in that effort. Yeah. But if you do, you can get ahead. And particularly as it applies to art, if you just outlast and keep working, you'll look back and you'll be 20 years ahead, and you will have this great body of work to share, and you'll have all the resources, and you will have already put in the work. And particularly with my field as an artist, you can start putting in that work as a young kid. And by the time you get out of high school, you can have all of this work already under your belt. You've already got all the experience.
It's just about taking one step at a time, whatever it is. If like an artist, whatever, and I don't know how you'd break it down to the smallest forms, but you can always do one little small thing, just take you to that next step, right? That's
how I look at it. It's always small steps for me. It's knocking out little things. Every day is knocking out little small tasks. At the end of the day, I'm like, wow, look what I accomplished. At the end of the week, it's even bigger. At the end of the month, it's huge. And you just do that day after day, but every single day I'm accomplishing something. I'm doing something. I'm putting in some amount of work, whether it's on actually physically creating a piece, working on some component of the marketing, cultivating a new relationship. You're always planting new seeds and putting in work every single day. And then you look back and you're amazed at how far you've come.
Wow. Well, you guys heard it. It's an impressive story. Take a look at his art. Buy a piece. Buy some of the apparel. There's pricing for everyone. So all you entrepreneurs, please subscribe, pass it on, share it on. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Road to Growth, Success of an Entrepreneur. Please like, subscribe, and stay connected. Visit www.vinnySD.com.
Yeah, I created a website.
Hope to see you again next week. Team Vinny SD, signing off.